Welcome to the Dirty Verdict Podcast. We're your hosts, trial lawyer Kyle Herbert and mediator Peter Toff, break down Texas legal news, lawsuits, and verdicts. And now, here's Kyle and Peter.
I do with my hands.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dirty Verdict, the podcast that never skips leg day. Peter, what are we talking about?
All right, welcome back to another one. We've got two esteemed guests with us.
Joe Melugin and one William Bill Ogden.
And Joe just kind of expounded on one of his many areas of expertise being 1983 civil rights cases.
Yep.
And Igor's birthday.
Yeah.
Eeyore's birthday.
Same thing.
Igor's
That's what I said.
Uh-huh.
That was Bill's area.
And Bill is kind enough to come back and visit with us again. But as I noted, one thing that I don't think we got from Bill was just a general background on him. He just jumped right in with telling us about how things are.
Bill, tell us about Bill.
About Bill. Let's see.
How you got where you are today?
6'4", 204 pounds this morning. I run a 4.91 40-yard dash.
It's good.
No, I grew up in Houston area. I grew up in Deer Park, Texas. So southeast side. I didn't look good.
You friends with Andy Pettit?
I got to catch him when I was in high school. He did his elbow rehab at our high school, and I was the varsity catcher. And so he threw the bullpen to me, and then he called in all of the freshman team and all the varsity team, and we all took a knee, and he stood there, and he was like, kids,
Don't do drugs.
Do steroids. And then 3 years later, he was in front of Congress, and he was taking HGH at that time.
Yeah.
HGH isn't a steroid.
And HGH technically was not a banned substance when he was taking it.
Also
so
true.
It was you had to figure out which side you wanted to be on that. But,
Sidebar, did you inject him or did he inject you after?
We had this dual needle, and so we just docked.
Yeah. Fair.
He had one of the better he was the misremembered guy, right?
I misremembered it.
I mean, that went down in deposition history.
Because
right?
he didn't remember.
Yeah.
But he remembered, he just didn't remember it correctly. So he misremembered.
Yeah.
It's a safe answer.
When you have the cream and the clear going on at the same time, it's difficult to accurate remember.
If I'm prepping one of my clients for trial and they get impeached,
You say I misremembered.
Saved it. Back in
Boom.
the driver's seat. I went to Deer Park, and it is an industrial blue-collar town.
Yeah.
A lot of refineries feed the economy and all the employment. I look terrible in blue coveralls and high vis, so I went to college at Sam Houston, and went to law school at South Texas College of Law in Houston. After that, started working at Farah and Ball for West Ball and Kyle Farah when I was a third year in law school.
Both human geniuses.
For the first year, they didn't acknowledge that I existed. Wes legit for 6 months thought I was an IT guy because nobody told him that they hired a clerk.
You've got a bit of an IT guy vibe.
Right?
Lots of 6'4", 200-pound IT guy.
Hey,
How much toner do you guys go
that's
to?
how much range we have.
Yeah.
We got a lot of range. I did not think they were going to offer me a job. And 2 weeks before the bar exam results came out, Kyle Farah came to me for the first time ever and said, hey, come to lunch with us. And I'd been begging. I always saw him walk away. All the lawyers leave for lunch, and I was never invited.
You guys want to go to Schlotsky's?
So we went to El Tiempo.
Whoa.
And, had a couple margaritas. And then two of the attorneys that went to the bathroom, it was just me and Kyle at the table. And he's like, all right, I'm going to offer you a job. What do you want to make? And I was like, was not prepared for this. So I threw out a number that I knew was too much. And he threw out a number that was
Much less than that.
was less. And then I was like, meet me in the middle. And then I picked like a higher than midpoint. And he just laughed. And he was like, all right, we can do that. And so I've been there for 11 years. And they were 32, 33 when they hired me. And they threw me in the deep end. Like 2 weeks in, I was taking.
But you're 6'4", so that's
I could stand up
fine.
and my head was out of the water. I know, but yeah, I got tossed into cases that I had no business being in. But Wes and Kyle both took me everywhere with them for the first 2 years. I flew to all the depositions and I learned. And they actually taught me good stuff and bad stuff, and then they allowed me to pick what I wanted from each of them because they're very different, and kind of morphed it in my own style. And from there, it just kind of took its own wings. And if I bring a case that I believe in and I can justify bringing it in, they will not tell me no. They'll tell me whether or not they think it's a good idea, but they'll respect whatever decision I have, and they won't. I don't get babysat, and I never have been. it's probably reckless of them as business owners. And as you know, I'm sure the malpractice carrier wouldn't have liked it had they known. But that was the way that you learn, is by doing big cases and knowing what it's like to fight a motion to compel that means something, or defend a summary judgment that has a lot of money riding on it. And they let me argue, and I tried cases with them. And I was it was a good fit, and I owe them a lot of my success, because they are the reason that I got to get to the level I'm at.
So real quick, what kind of cases you handle these days?
These days I'm doing a lot. I'm trying to get away from mass torts. It's hard to really care about a client when you have 2,000 of them. And you care about them, but it's hard to have any sort of personal relationship when you have that many clients. And but there was a huge refinery fire with a ton of bad chemicals that lasted like 5 days in my hometown. And I went to Wes and Kyle and said, hey, can I go get some of these? And they said, if you want to do this case, you're going to have to get like 200. So I called a buddy of mine, Chance McMillan, at 7 a.m. on a Monday, and I said, hey, let's go get some of these. And by the end of like night 2, we had like 500. And so I got put on I'm a co-lead of that. It's about 10,000 cases here in Houston in federal court. So I'm co-lead there, and then there was an explosion in Port Neches, Texas, later that year.
The PNG.
TPC. It's all acronyms, but yeah, TPC.
Port Neches Groves is what you're talking about.
There's a P, and I think P&G was the California company for the wildfires.
I'm thinking about 1995 District 24 4A high school football.
I was 8.
Deer Park, Friendswood, Port Neches Grove, Brazosport,
West Orange Start,
Little
Cypress, Mauriceville,
Lamarck,
all the LCM,
Galveston Ball, Texas City. Anyways, we digress. You had some other acronyms you wanted to talk about that don't have anything to do with high school football.
Oh yeah,
TPC.
TPC. Yeah, and Peter actually was in that case worked that case with me for a little bit. So I got appointed there. The Beaumont aspect of it is, all of the Beaumont firms do and don't get along at different times with each other, and so they had we had 6 co-leads, and they needed a Houston guy to be the tiebreaker, and I think that's the only reason why I got asked. So I'm co-lead there, and I do some Jones Act stuff, some maritime shipwreck stuff. We did the Alex Jones defamation stuff we covered last time, and for the first 7 years of my practice, I just did products liability. So, and I think if you can do an auto products case successfully in the right way, you can do any type of case there is. Because if you can take a product that fails at 70 miles an hour, rollovers, you got to do accident reconstruction, biomedical, you have to do it's very expert intensive. And so if you can do that case, I firmly believe you can do any type of case there is. And so they trusted me when I said that, and so I just started going out and getting industrial accidents. I've got a couple of personal injury, trucking cases, but for the most part, I'm going out there getting cases that I do get to believe in and actually have a passion for. Otherwise, I don't know if I'd still be doing this.
All right, Bill.
Real quick, advice to someone coming out of law school that wanted to be a trial lawyer.
So I talk a lot with students. I taught at South Texas College of Law, and then I coached their varsity mock trial team as well. And I tell students the same thing, which is if you want to be a trial lawyer, it's tough. And there's a reason for having the highest rate of substance abuse, alcoholism, divorce, suicide, all of that. Plaintiffs' lawyers are at the top of that list when it comes to lawyers. And we talked a little bit last time when I was here about why, which is nobody wants to give a $10 million case to a guy who walks around aware, showing that sometimes he makes mistakes. And so you have to walk around like your shit doesn't stink, and that doesn't work. As a human, you can't do that 24/7, and it's hard to turn off and on. And I've lost longtime friends because I was just an asshole, and I couldn't. I figured it out, and it was because of those relationships that I did that. So I always tell them know what you're getting into. It is the most rewarding. Easiest way to become a millionaire. It's the most rewarding area of law, in my opinion. But at the same time, the stress level and what we do is legalize gambling. That's all we do. We put our own money up, thinking that in our heads we get to pick our cases and we can make better odds than Vegas, but we're gambling at the end of the day. And but my better advice for attorneys who hire young lawyers is let them do stuff, because otherwise they're just going to be notebook makers their whole career, until they leave for a job that's going to pay them $5,000 more. I never contemplated leaving my firm because my salary and the amount of money I got didn't matter to me because I knew I was getting way more value from other things. And that was the freedom that they gave me. So my advice to older lawyers is let your young attorneys do stuff. Let them argue motions. Let them, if they write it, let them argue it. Don't have your second year write you this motion, you file it, and then you go read it 5 minutes before and skim it and then throw out an argument when they can do it and they can probably do it better than you. So trust who you hire and let them do it. And if they make mistakes, fine. That's how we learn. So.
Okay, good.
I don't disagree with any of that.
Great advice. I agree.
And incidentally, Kyle and I are wearing Herbert bandanas in honor of rodeo season.
Well,
I thought y'all had like a biker gang or something that y'all were.
We're going to go rob some stuff.
we actually are members of a specialized police force here in Houston called the Scorpions.
The barbed wire boys.
And we need some merch for the Dirty Verdict, but I guess in the meantime, Herbert trial law rodeo bandanas will have to suffice. And anybody that wants to comment on any of our, we're giving it away for free.
I'm sure they're going to be positive.
Well, if it's negative, we won't read it.
True, or we'll delete it.
Careful. I don't know if Orange is affiliated with some sort of gang, prison gang maybe.
Actually, this orange is a lot closer to Tennessee orange, or maybe identical to Tennessee orange.
It is Tennessee
Texas,
Orange.
Texas.
It's a little red.
To be fair, this
it's a little
is-
bit red for Tennessee orange. It's we're Pantone
Pantone. Yeah.
151C.
So
I have
sure what it
I have
is.
some of that in my house. Wes left it.
this is I always abhor orange on orange violence, which is why I don't like watching those Murdaugh trials. But I've been told that this is Astros orange, and it being a championship season. I have these in orange and blue, and then blue and orange. So
It had to be a championship season before you committed to those colors. That's some front runner mindset there.
yeah.
No,
Yeah, of
Come on.
course.
not front runner, but I was saving it for something special.
Okay.
So we've also got baby blue and red. Anyways, if you want some free stuff, Joe, you don't need to go much further than my office because we got a bunch of junk for you.
And if you go to an Oklahoma State football game, you can wear that.
Go
and
Pokes.
You'll be
That's okay.
home team.
To be fair, Judge Garrison made me wear a Barry Sanders jersey.
I mean, you could do a lot worse than Barry Sanders. Barry
You
Sanders
could.
is amazing.
You could do a
we're
lot
wearing
worse.
this in honor of Judge Garrison, right?
Sure,
Oklahoma State?
why not?
Yeah, sure. Let's get
Guys
some
are
credit at least.
sleazy.
I think they're
You guys
maybe
are
the
slime.
worst basketball team in the Big 12. But yeah, no, well, I like Judge Garrison.
They're the worst basketball team in the Big 12?
Yeah.
I mean,
They're down there. It's like OU, Oklahoma State.
Well, OU's
Well,
leaving.
That's like being
OU's leaving.
that's like being the worst Porsche on the lot, though. I mean,
It's a
this
pretty
year,
good
Big 12.
conference.
Yeah.
But
It is a good conference this year.
who's dead last though? Tech was dead last.
Yeah, they've been coming up.
But they've won 2 or 3 games. But like West Virginia, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State are all pretty terrible. And then everybody else is really good. So, anywho.
Okay, you want to talk some news?
No, I was thinking maybe a nap.
I thought we could battle rap for a second.
Slam poetry.
It's the same.
Yeah, I thought we had that pegged for, we were going to do a whole slam poetry slap.
I thought we agreed no pegging.
Joe's going to beatbox. Joe's going to beatbox.
Definitely, yes, we did agree
And
with that.
Yes, that
we've
was
decided
that's a
we're
standing
pegging something
agreement.
later.
That's a
we're
standing
probably going to
agreement.
turn off Bill's microphone.
That's fair. I came back just to see how long they would do it before they pulled the plug. So
All right.
Okay,
Lay it on me. Give me some
okay,
stories.
this
Pete.
story, this is kind of funny. Y'all, do you remember Alan Stanford?
Yeah.
The Ponzi scheme?
buddy of
guy?
mine represented him for a little while before somebody else took over.
100%.
All right, I didn't realize this. He was arrested in 2009. We actually, do you know that that ABC investigative reporter Brian Ross? Remember that guy?
Yeah.
So he was doing a story for one of my old firm's cases, and we're at what's this Tillman Steakhouse that's over there by the stadium, Vic and Anthony's.
Yep.
We're in there with Brian Ross because we just had this story, and he's having drinks afterwards. And Alan Stanford comes in right after this all breaks, and he gets arrested the next day, and he's out there. And Brian Ross ditched us like we were yesterday's news, which
To go interview Stanford.
Yeah, interviewed him outside, like he had his little camera with him, and that was on Nightline, like that night.
To be fair, an $8 billion Ponzi scheme is kind of makes everybody small potatoes.
Yes, true.
I'm not trying hard enough.
In my home office, I have 30 of my favorite mugshots and celebrities and civil rights activists and stuff. And Stanford's on my wall. He's right next to Charles Ponzi.
Well, he is the story I'm looking at. He looks like central casting, like a third season of the White Lotus. Like looks like a guy at a White Lotus. Right?
Tan rested and ready to go.
Yeah, he looks like the guy out of the first season, the maitre d' or the
mustache.
That
mustache is just.
That's what happens when you're a full-time polo player. That happens to your face.
So that case is still going on. TD Bank, which
the civil side. Mm-hmm. Okay.
TD Bank, which is also no one knew this, or I didn't know it. Toronto Dominion Bank. They agreed to pay $1.2 billion to the trustee, Ralph Jandy, who's been the trustee forever. The case was set to go to trial, apparently, in Houston federal court. Baker Botts represented them on this one.
Who do you know who?
Kevin Sadler was the lawyer who was quoted in the story.
Okay.
So $1.2 billion, and then it's like, this is just a drop in the bucket compared to that. HSBC Holdings, they paid $40 million.
Oh.
And Independent Bank, formerly Bank of Houston, they paid $100 million. So that moved it from 1.2 to 1.34.
Surely these aren't contingency contracts.
No,
I don't think so.
Or maybe there's some sort of hybrid percentage and hourly.
I don't know, but and I think they probably still have some to go. But that receiver has recovered.
Aren't the receiver's fees set by the bankruptcy court?
I think they have to do like most bankruptcy. They go and make requests.
I got 3 ongoing bankruptcies right now, and I have gone out of my way to learn nothing about it.
I think that's smart. You're preserving your good brain juices.
Yeah. I will say, I've never seen paper in motion practice turned out like that. In 2 weeks, they're filing 50 different things.
So I was a member of the Houston City Club, which was like a really nice gym over here in Greenway Plaza.
Now Lifetime.
And now it's Lifetime, but back in the day, it was like this gym that I was the youngest member of this gym by 100 years. It was a great place to meet old ladies and play tennis. And the place opened at 4:45 in the morning because everybody that worked out there was retired.
Yeah, so they woke up, did their Bible study, and then they came to work out.
Yes, 100%. And they also had free breakfast, which was fantastic. So, a super nice men's locker room. So I'm there at 6 a.m. and there's this old guy walks up next to me, and on the screen they are showing the 1 hour tape delay footage of the SEC raiding Alan Stanford's office with literal Uzis drawn. And then they had the spokesman who's we're totally above board. This is a very normal investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission. We're fully cooperating, and nothing really important. And the guy next to me is this 80-year-old nude man who said,
"They're always nude.
They're always naked." That's the thing. After you're 80, if you have any money 80? At all,
I think it's 60.
Yeah, I was gonna say 60.
All your money is spent being in places where you don't have to wear clothes. So he's sitting there and he starts laughing and he goes, "My office is in that building. If them kicking the door down with Uzis drawn is a normal investigation, I'd love to see what happens when they're particularly interested in what it is you do."
Right.
And then it's just bizarre. A couple of weeks after that, a guy I went to high school with was an IT guy there. And he calls me up and he's like, "You got to help me." And I'm like, "What's going on?" He goes, "The FBI has showed up at my house and my girlfriend is super stressed out."
Was he not? Because I would be.
He hadn't met with them yet. And he wanted to know, what am I allowed?
You can't tell anything more about this meeting, right? He's calling you for a reason. Come on, Kyle. No, but back to the nude guy. He just throws his balls over. Just throws his balls over his shoulder at that point, turns around and walks away.
Settle down. So anyway, so my buddy's this low-level IT guy, and he's super stressed out that the FBI is at his house. I'm like, "Hey man, you 100% are not responsible for this. They're probably gonna want to interview you just to see they're trying to unravel the web. It's you should just chat with them and see what they want. And anyways, this is crazy. The FBI hired him, and he ended up working for the FBI for like 2 years. And all he was there to do was like explain to the FBI bookkeepers and IT guys how to
Putting the
unpack
puzzle
it.
together. Yeah.
And like super cool guy. We're still friends. I saw him running the marathon by my house a couple weeks ago, and it's like totally random weird ripples from these insanely large cases.
There was a pause there when you were like, so he went in and he chatted with him, and then you paused, and I thought you were like, now he's in jail.
Now,
I was like, oh, no.
I told him to just be honest, and now he's in.
Do not fucking lie. Do not. With the last thing that you did.
I told
do
him.
Not fucking lie.
I told him to just tell the truth, and now he's in Gitmo.
Yeah. Well, you shouldn't talk to them at all.
Don't
lie, but also don't talk.
I've actually sat in on several FBI interviews. Interestingly enough, a buddy of mine got a job working for the Department of Defense after being an intern for George Bush.
Which George Bush?
The war criminal or the other war criminal?
Yes.
So I'm just kidding.
So
Kinda.
he calls me and he says, "Hey man, you're going to get a call in the next couple of days as part of my background check with the Department of Defense." Because at the time he was like pimping the F-22 strike fighter for like McDonnell Douglas, and he was going to switch teams and work for the Department of Defense. And he was like, when they interview you, don't tell them about this and don't tell them about that and don't tell them about this. And I was like, hold on, what should his name? We'll call him James. His name is not James. I go, James, if I'm the guy you got to call to tell not to tell things to the FBI, maybe I shouldn't be on your reference list. And he goes, no, man, I knew they were going to find you eventually. I just wanted to be like upfront and like brief you about what's going to happen next. And I was like, genius.
I've had a couple calls like that just because the FBI recruits a lot out of Sam Houston, and so a bunch of people that I went to school with definitely listed me.
I'm assuming they're in Gitmo now too.
Fair enough. They're probably not employed by the FBI.
So did we get through all we wanted to chat about with Alan Stanford?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he was arrested in 2009.
So do we know who the remaining defendants are, or did that resolve?
That could have been it.
Okay.
The big one.
What was the country that he like created their entire banking system?
Cayman?
Was it the Caymans or the Bahamas or something?
Monaco?
No, it was somewhere in the Caribbean.
Like he needed
Or Caribbean, depending on if you're talking about pirates.
That's true.
he needed to have a country to like run his grift through, and like
Yeah, this all sounds
He had a
familiar.
modern Noriega.
it was like the Bahamas or something.
No, it was like
Didn't he introduce cricket there?
Yeah, cricket or Quidditch or
It wasn't Bahamas
polo,
then.
some bizarre English sport. Field hockey, maybe. I don't know.
Because was his name maybe not?
I think that's an English
Stanford
sport.
too.
What?
Was that also a changed name?
Alan Stanford? Yeah. I think he used to go by Danny Gobe.
No, yeah, I've heard of one of those guys.
What was I think Michael Vick may have had the funny one.
Ron Mexico?
It was like Mike. Yeah, it wasn't Ron Mexico, but it was something like that. It
It
was similar to Mike Honcho.
It was Ron Mexico.
Was it Ron Mexico? I couldn't remember.
And then what was Kiffin's? Joey Freshwater.
Yeah. What I wouldn't give to be Lane Kiffin.
Or Joey.
Or Joey Freshwater. Now we're all Googling what...
Antigua.
okay, there you go.
American Antigua and Barbuda, which... All right, so like I'm not going to pretend that I don't hate Baylor University.
That's fair.
Go
There's
on.
plenty of reasons.
That's a popular opinion now, I think.
Where did Alan Stanford go to college?
Of course.
BA, Chicken Bears, 1974, Baylor University. Ridiculous. All right, Pete, this is
Okay,
just,
we've
it's
kind of
making
played
me
this one
sad
out.
because it is all right, so it is just a direct line from Baylor University to the United States Penitentiary, but let's go ahead and talk about
Via
something
Antigua.
else. Via Antigua.
All right, last week, we talked about a funeral home case. And Bill was very
Sign 'em
clear
up.
on his view on those as being cases to take. So there's been another one.
To be fair, Bill has agreed. If anybody out there has a mortuary case that they want to refer, it's coming to Kyle Herbert at herberttrial.com, 713-987-7100. Bill doesn't want those. He's too busy, and I'm here to take those. So just let me know.
I like a challenge.
Yeah.
All right, so in this one, the family is arguing that their mother's body was put in a mausoleum and it wasn't handled properly, and so liquid from the body has been leaked out of the casket into the common area of the mortuary. So it's a very...
This is awkward, but
You were getting sick, were you, Joe? You okay?
this is a bit of an awkward question here, but who filed that case?
Ben Hall is the, the...
I know the case well. I know exactly what happened
Okay.
because
This was your mother.
until right now, I thought I might be filing it.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Good
Well,
job,
maybe
Ben
you
Hall.
got... I mean, there's probably multiple errors that you can still intervene.
Go find those.
Well, this is a public record, Bill. So
that's
it's
fine.
Forest Park, Lawndale, and the plaintiff's name is Tina Evans. I pulled it. Okay, so that brings one thing we talked about last week was that the defendants had filed a motion to compel arbitration in the other case, and that's in front of our Okie State honoree Judge Garrison's court. She actually granted the motion to compel arbitration in that case. In the interim, since we last
Are you
talked.
able to tell what what arbitration they get? Is it AAA?
AAA is in the order.
I mean, that's fine, but like, man, if for all the civilians out there, never sign an arbitration agreement. You're
I don't think
gonna
anybody
get hosed.
actively signs one.
Yeah,
I think
no,
they're
Aren't
just
they-
in that.
I believe those are called
Click-throughs.
contracts of adhesion.
I think that's the term. Yeah.
Yeah. Boom.
But in that case, I believe they have also moved to.
See, you didn't want that case anyways, Bill.
No, you're right. I'm loving this now.
It was going to get sent to arbitration. Nobody was going to make any money. Ben Hull's going to be super sad. He's going to work a bunch.
I've never done it. I know very little about arbitration. I know you've done some. You can call me on some.
It's a nightmare. I've had one or two that were worked out like in a reasonable way. The rest were just nightmares. So this lady got buried in the mausoleum, and like they.
Yeah. So then it some sort of liquid substance found a leak, which highly affected the way the body decomposed, and people found and it started leaking like fluids, unknown fluids. We don't know where exactly they came from. It started leaking out, and so that's when it all came to fruition.
So I'm going to get cremated, I think.
I think that's a good way to go. They're also doing like water cremations or the green burial thing. They
I
just
want to
throw
be
you under a
buried
tree.
in like a tree bulb.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm doing a
can
full
do that.
Viking canoe.
Yeah,
I like
Viking.
that. That's a
I
good
want
one.
you all
That's a
with
good one,
fire
too.
arrows for sure.
That's a good one.
You don't.
Just down the bayou in downtown.
I was going to say that's my concern. Is like I'm not sure my friends could operate a bow and arrow. Like I've got one or two, but they're.
The fact that you call it a bow and arrow, I mean, pretty much says it all on your abilities to use one.
I originally wanted to be burned on top of the A&M, the Aggie bonfire, but they don't do that anymore. So.
What do we got next, Peter?
You guys remember that movie, Last Mohicans?
Yeah,
I never saw it.
that's
Yeah.
a great movie.
It is. Hold on.
I like Daniel Day-Lewis. I just never
I was
saw
going to
the
say, is
movie.
Daniel Day-Lewis not your favorite actor?
He's not my favorite actor, but he's a good actor.
He's
So you hate Abraham Lincoln?
and
Check.
Daniel Fairplay.
I think that movie's pretty. That movie's pretty overrated. The Lincoln one, but
Have you not seen? Well, of course you would from Tennessee, you secessionist.
Okay. Well, no.
Ooh.
East Tennessee nearly pull to West Virginia. I don't know if you know that.
Like recently,
No, like in
but it's not really that kidding.
I mean, frankly,
East
on the
Tennessee's now
political, yeah.
probably the more. Yeah.
Anyways, if you have anything else disparaging to say about Abraham Lincoln, I suppose now's the
I
time.
said the movie's overrated.
Whoa, you know the movies.
But the other one that you're talking about.
Yeah, we diverged from last.
There'll be blood is phenomenal.
There Will Be Blood is amazing, and Last of the Mohicans is just it's fantastic.
And
But there's a scene in there where this guy is like at the end, it's like he's burning to death, and then Daniel Day-Lewis shoots him in the head like as an act of mercy, and like not the worst way in the world to go. I suppose.
Get it lit on fire for a second and then
But
one shot?
no.
Right, but like
You could do
a
just
second.
not the fire and then just go quickly.
The guy had redeemed himself too. That was the other thing because he was kind of a bad guy, and then he stood up.
No spoilers.
It's many moons.
It's like 30-year-old movie.
Yeah,
Come on, guys.
It's fine.
It's many moons since Magua.
On season 2 of The Sopranos right now. Don't ruin it for me.
It turns out fine for everybody.
Don't stop believing.
All right, so takeaways are funeral home case is still good.
Funeral home case is always good. However, take a look and
Not with arbitration.
I was going to say, look at your agreement, a contractual agreement with them, and take a look at what's in the arbitration agreement. I'd have to see exactly what the provisions were as to how they ended up there. Maybe. But from the facts that we talked about last time, I did not expect the arbitration to go forward, but it did.
Okay. I don't think Walter and the dude agreed to arbitration.
No, certainly not.
Saps.
It's like Vietnam. There are no rules.
Is there a Ralph's nearby?
The reason I didn't think the arbitration would go forward is because usually in those contracts, it's the deceased. But the people bringing the claim have their own claims. And so that's why I would think there's no, there was any privity.
I want to step away because you actually seem like an expert in these burial cases.
I know enough to get me in trouble.
All right. So I was the moderator of a CLE in New Orleans several years ago.
Humble flex.
Totally awesome. Like 3 days.
You heard about him, his membership
maybe
at the City Club.
You might recognize me from moderating a New Orleans CLE.
You might recognize
the
me
City
from
Club.
certain high school films as Blood on the Highway and Don't Get Pregnant.
I played Danny Zuko in high school.
So here's the point. I went and did a tour of the Garden District, and they take you through like the old German cemetery because before it was the French coast, it was the German coast. All these German families live there, and they basically explained to us that like these mausoleums that are like 13, 14, 15 feet high is like they put the body on one level and then they seal it up and then it bakes and then it moves and then it bakes more and then it moves again. Then you put more bodies on it. And it's basically just it's like an outdoor Traeger for human beings built out of limestone and concrete.
It depends, and you got to have the right pellets for that Traeger.
This is kind of not a totally ridiculous question. Like, like we all turn into worm food, right? At some point, which is like why I want to be cremated. Like, I don't really care to be worm food. Like, is it still the same? Like, why? Like, we all turn into juicy fluid at some point.
Is what's still the same?
So I think the claim is one. My understanding is that in this area, when you say you're burying somebody in a certain spot and they're not there, that's a
big problem.
That's a big problem for you had one job, cemetery, literally the only job. With the mausoleum, it's different because my understanding is they do move. But it's the decomposition and the respectful burial, and then there's different religions that have different things that you have to.
But like, isn't the point to eventually like dry you out to where you're?
Yeah, but you don't want to go to the mausoleum to see your loved one and get there and have a bunch of mystery fluid coming out.
I mean, that's a fair.
That's
a fair thing to expect.
That might be a hot take, but I feel like most people would agree with that one. So I think it's more of. Anytime you're dealing with a cemetery or a funeral home or anything like that, it's a super already delicate situation, and your job is to make sure you don't mess it up. Because if you mess it up, everybody's already on edge.
It's a queso-free situation.
Yeah, don't need no queso here.
I went to that famous people cemetery
in LA.
The Hollywood Forever Cemetery.
Why?
No, I went to the one. It's in Westwood. It's where Marilyn Monroe's buried and Hugh Hefner's buried and Farrah Fawcett. Like
Hugh Hefner's dead?
Weird, right? I know.
Allegedly.
There goes my Tuesday.
But to be fair, I'm pretty sure JFK Jr. is about to appoint him Secretary of the Interior.
Oh, okay.
So sit tight. But yeah, I went there.
Why?
I was there for a football game to watch Texas play USC.
Oh, no. I get why you were in California and in Los Angeles. My question is, why did you go like, hey, I should go to that cemetery and look at a bunch of stones?
To be totally honest, I had like 3 hours to kill and had a couple of cocktails. And I asked the concierge at the hotel what I should do. And she said, there's a Magic Johnson Theater down the street. Maybe you should just walk down there and see if there's something playing. And I, no joke, walked down to the Magic Johnson Theater. And you want to know who was there walking in as I was walking out as I was walking in?
Magic Johnson. Yeah.
Hell yes, it was.
Wait,
Magic
really?
Johnson. No joke.
Wow.
And I go, hey, Magic, what's playing? And he goes, nothing. We're shutting down for a private event, but you should go check out that weird cemetery next door. It's got all kinds of famous people.
Are you messing with me?
And I go, thanks, Magic. And he goes, no problem, buddy. And then I went next door and I walked around, and like Armie Hammer's family's there, and Farrah
I don't think you can
Fawcett's
say
there.
Armie Hammer anymore after
He's
his.
a cannibal, right? Anywho, we wandered around. It was kind of super fun.
I was setting up to make fun of you for doing this, but the fact that Magic Johnson told you to do it, I'm like, that's an awesome story.
You want to know something else awesome? Magic Johnson only tips $100 bills.
Okay.
How'd you find that out?
Yeah, what did he tip you for?
So, like I said, I was walking in, he was walking out. The valet comes up, and like 4 valets like come to they all swarm around
It's getting weirder.
his giant car. He's there with, I assume his wife, I don't know. And he hands them each a bill, and I'm like, he takes off. I'm like, that's pretty great service. And they're like, well, 1, he owns the place, and 2, he only tips $100 bills. Every time he comes in, every time he comes out, he tips us each $100.
I was hoping that you knew that because he tipped you for something.
You didn't recognize Cookie Johnson?
I did not recognize Cookie Johnson.
Pierce Brothers is the cemetery, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds right. It's a really nice church there.
Did you see any fluids leaking out of anything?
No, not at all. I mean, like,
Sounds like a good shop.
the place is pristine and amazing. And
You would guess.
yeah, as you would guess. I mean, like all the most famous people in the history of Los
Which
Angeles.
theater were you at?
There's a Magic Johnson
he's
Theater
checking.
right around the corner.
We're seeing
Because
that
there's
this might be
in Glendale, there's something called Forest Park, where like Errol Flynn and
Marilyn Monroe's buried at Pierce Brothers. Did you see?
okay, then
Marilyn's
that's
grave?
it. All right.
Wherever it's Marilyn Monroe's mausoleum, and she's right next to like Rudolph Valentino's there, and I know that Farrah Fawcett's there because she went to UT, and there was like
Farrah Fawcett's dead?
weirdly enough,
I feel so bad for her.
no, what's her husband's?
No, Farrah Fawcett died, and then like 2 hours later, Michael Jackson died.
Yeah,
Everybody forgot about Farrah.
What was Farrah's husband?
Ryan O'Neal.
Ryan O'Neal.
Well, Lee Majors, local.
Yeah.
local.
Majors v. Majors, great lawsuit. But there was a bunch of people there with like Farrah Fawcett, like a bunch of Texas fans were there to see Farrah Fawcett's grave because she was a co-ed at UT. And then, weirdly enough,
Tommy's got a fair story.
It's a weird thing.
God bless Tommy Fivich. He's got a story about everything. So this is the weird story, right? Andy Warhol did 2 paintings of Farrah Fawcett, and she gifted them to the University of Texas, and then to go, I think, into the Ransom Center. And then after she died, Ryan O'Neal sued the University of Texas, saying that those were a gift to me during her lifetime. You can't have them. And I think the resolution was, I think they settled out of court, and one of the portraits went to the Ransom Center, and one of them, Ryan O'Neal, got to keep, which is like completely kind of morbid and weird. But anyways.
Have you guys seen that? Speaking of Marilyn Monroe, who was also in that cemetery, did you see the like Netflix movie?
The one by
New one. Came out last year.
with the actress from Knives Out.
Yes.
I was in it for about 20 minutes. Then I was like,
No,
it's too aggressive.
It is deeply dark and aggressive. I couldn't handle it.
Sounds like I need something I need to watch.
Not with the kids. Maybe not with a date. Maybe
Why would I
alone.
watch why would I watch Marilyn?
It's an
Marilyn Monroe?
NC-17. I would hope not with the kids.
Oh, it is NC-17. Okay.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not for.
I watched the first 20 minutes of it.
You don't want to watch it with your parents.
To be fair,
Watch it with another.
I would watch it with your mom, but not with my parents. And to be fair, I've got kind of a squeamish stomach, but I know, it's fine.
I got to check this out now.
Have you guys ever seen a movie called Babylon?
No.
Is that one of those
Who's in
church
that?
camp movies?
Babylon, it came out a couple of months ago. It's got Brad Pitt and
Oh yeah, I want to see that, but I've also seen that it has terrible.
Oh,
reviews.
I have seen it.
It was
it's
the Hollywood-
with the Hollywood. Yeah, it's like in the 1920s.
Silent picture.
It's a transition from silent to.
you might ask yourself, are drugs ever the answer? And the correct answer is, I don't know. Depends. Are you going to be watching the movie Babylon? Because it is 4 hours of complete nonsense, and you need to do massive amounts of drugs in order for that movie to make sense.
How do you know? Got him.
My 9-year-old told me.
Oh, jeez. Oh, okay.
No, I watched it, and I got 2 hours into it, and I was like, do you guys ever have those movies where you're like, it's terrible, but I'm invested. I'm so pot committed to seeing how much worse this can get, like Ishtar.
Well, Amsterdam is another one that just came out, and
terrible.
I wanted that to be really good because it's a great story. Because the business plot story is like a really good story.
Yeah. And so, to be fair, Babylon is a little bit better than Amsterdam, but
that doesn't make it good.
Does not make it good. And
I didn't hate
but if it's 4 hours, it's also a little bit longer than Amsterdam. So I don't know how much better it would have to be.
It just depends how interesting the rest of your life is, really.
So you're no on Babylon.
It depends.
Unless you have taken a bunch of drugs.
It all comes down to what is your current access to heroin. Because if you've got a bunch of like greasy black tar heroin, like from like the 1960s British rock that you can inject into your body, perhaps the heroin will overpower the incredible boredom of watching this terrible film. Or you could just like go in the backyard and like slowly light your socks on fire. Like it is terrible.
Yeah, you heard it here first.
There you go. Yeah, so we went from legal to
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, from
no matter what occurs.
How do you want to get buried or done? How are you going to get treated after you die?
And hating Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's venture back. Let's dip our toe into the legal world and let's talk about some verdicts.
All right.
Okay, the first one, as Kyle knows, last time I screwed this up, or I didn't get enough info. Travis County jury, February 3rd, found leading construction material supplier BMC West responsible for a 2019 trucking crash, caused the death of a 72-year-old Jonestown, Texas resident. Compensatory damages, $19 million.
Jeez.
13 days of pain and suffering pre-death. $70 million in punitive damages. This was in probate court in Travis County.
God, that's gonna be a great venue.
And this is the interesting thing. The reason why there's not as much pub as normal is plaintiffs' lawyers were Graves, Doherty, Heron, and Moody, which is kind of the blue blood
defense firm,
corporate firm in Austin.
Bunch of dirtbags.
Yeah, so
it sounds like they can try a case on the other side, though.
Yep. So, but that is
associates.
So you can't get any. It's so hard, as Bill mentioned, so hard to get Austin pleadings. Like it's so good, easy to get stuff in Houston, but in Austin it's very hard. And so, despite my best efforts, I couldn't get any more detail on it. But that is a verdict.
I mean, that is a huge verdict, and like it's kind of one of those things where you imagine like some defense firm is like, right, like embarrassed that they blew some gigantic insurance company up so bad, like.
How pissed do you think they are? Because going into that case, they were like, yeah, punitive damages should be capped.
Yeah.
They can ring up for 70 million of them, and they can, well, enjoy what you get, boys.
What we ought to do here is set up some special courts so transportation companies don't have to answer to the common man. Oh.
Has that been filed yet, that bill?
It has. The commercial court bill,
really?
My understanding, has been. You know what?
We need to find these people. We need to start primarying people like that.
To be fair, we know a couple legislators. I bet we could get somebody to come out here.
Yeah.
I know. I went to high school and law school with one. He Briscoe Kane.
If you could get Briscoe Kane, who has blocked me on Twitter and
oh,
Facebook.
My God. Why? You just mess with him or what?
A lot of comments, I'm sure.
He's super upset that I know a whole lot about his cheerleading career. And
how do you know a bunch about his cheerleading career?
It's weird that you know a lot about his cheerleading career.
Yeah, that was in high school. I went to high school.
Hey, you don't know what a super good cheerleader he was. And, like, don't judge him for his incredible cheerleading abilities.
I will say this: our view on politics is very different. But he and I both we both respected each other's opinions through law school, and then I've spoken with him a few times since. So
get Briscoe on the show.
Look,
I'll text him.
Here's the point: when he took that ring all the way from the Shire into Mordor and threw it into the giant volcano, I admire that.
I think it's a different guy. I've seen the side by sides on Twitter a couple of times.
When Bill said his name, I thought he said Bruce Cocaine. I was like, what?
That's a cooler
name.
Yeah, John Mexico or whatever we were talking about earlier.
I'm just saying, like, he saved all of Middle Earth, and I appreciate that. But that said, like, his stance on like people being allowed to vote and the other weird stuff that he supports is different.
It's a different view, and you might not agree with it. Doesn't make him a bad person, but good. But I don't think it does.
Doesn't make him a good person.
I didn't say it makes him a good or bad person. I just said it's different than my views.
Yeah.
Switzerland, right, Peter?
So I try to be.
Look at us.
You are being very good, Bill. That's good.
Well, when you sue people for defamation, you know how to walk it back.
That's right.
I've said nothing but complimentary things. Save Middle Earth and fantastic cheerleader.
All right, we're going to go to another verdict, and that is Scott West and a team from AZA and others obtained a trade secrets verdict in Fort Bend County, February 27th of this month. Or I guess, yeah, where are we?
How big?
What's today? The press release.
Today's the
28th. So, but it came out last week, at least when the reporting first came out. But I guess they just got their detailed press release. The number was $9 million total, but I believe a significant portion of that was attorney's fees. So this was a guy named Toby Eoff, EOFF from Odessa, who sold his company to Distribution Now or DNow. His company was called Odessa Pumps, and then allegedly went out and basically started a competitor taking people and information in a very methodical way. And so
Commercial case.
Commercial trade secrets is, I think we know, we probably talked before, those are not quite as easy as people think they are. Things are not always as trade secrety as one may think.
So they got a verdict for $8 million. $2 million of it, they're realistically going to cover.
And then the rest is attorney's fees.
Okay.
So the question...
They need an expert to prove up those attorney's fees, Peter.
Mm-hmm, that's true, yeah.
You're looking for anybody.
Well, they... the question I have on that was some of the case law says it has to be proportional to the recovery, right? So that's what I was thinking is on post-verdict briefing, and that's probably going to be real.
Well, you got if you look at the case and you got a case that got, maybe it got an interlocutory appeal early, and then COVID hit and all that stuff. It spread it out. It's not like the attorneys were overbilling. It might have just gone up on appeal, came back down, stuff like that. So I don't know.
Good point.
I like Scott a lot. Actually, after I did the first show with you, I told Kyle he should get Scott. He's a good guy and he's a good storyteller.
We'll track him down. We should get him.
Well,
he's in Sugar Land.
Yeah, he's kind of Fort Bend County is where he
never heard of it.
Does his work, right? And I remember seeing that I believe his daughter did closing or opening in the case, so that's got to be cool for the West family.
What did the defense lawyer say about this case?
No. Well, I saw on social media that they were characterizing it as a win as well because it was less than what was asked for. But lawyers are prone to spin things the best way they can. So that
I am the beholder.
So yeah, I mean, it just suggests that maybe people should mediate cases and try to just get right. Okay, last one. Thompson Co. reports, and we're going to be equal. Not just plaintiff verdicts. We're going to talk about defense verdicts. Thompson Co. Reports that attorneys Bill Book, David Burns, Tom Mashizek, who I know Bill and David were at TCO Book and then or Taylor Book, just joined Thompson Co. recently. They had a car wreck case. Their client was Cemex, the Mexican cement company. Plaintiff's accident, apparently not disputed liability. Plaintiffs asked the jury for $5 million. They were awarded $52,650.
What was the venue?
Harris County. I can't remember which court it was. 152. Judge Schaefer. I looked it up. He doesn't live stream, but I.
What was it? Do you have a breakdown of what that 52 was?
It was. Yes, I did.
Just out of curiosity, what did they actually? When you go $5 million to $52,000, you got to believe in one specific thing.
So there was a 6-day trial, at least according to the court. No liability question, so it was only a damages. Past mental anguish, $45,000. Past impairment, $3,500. Past medical, $150. Past earning loss, $4,000. And then the defense lawyers reported that their defense was that this was attorney-driven medical care, that prices were way above what normal health insurance pays. That
Sounds like it worked.
that you guys deal with on the plaintiff side. Y'all deal with that all the time.
Try it on the plaintiff side.
I don't deal with it.
We're gonna keep that low unless you want to say. I don't want to.
No, I mean if it's public record, it's fine.
The plaintiff lawyers were, according to the pleadings, they were Bennett, Midlow, and David Harris of Seco, Hochsler, and Harris.
Seco, Holscher. I know David Harris real well. A very good attorney who's had some wonderful verdicts.
Yeah.
I come down on this, and you guys tell me if I'm crazy. So much of these cases where it's a fight about damages and not about liability, or even a close fight about liability, is. And by the way, I know nothing about this case. But I've had cases that I thought were just slam dunk solid. And then you go in there and the defense does a decent job and your client comes across like a total bonehead and you just get killed.
Well, I think the way I handle it is I don't believe in Chapter 18 affidavits anymore. So
Sure.
Because anybody can give you a counter. And so when they give you the counter, you go back to the old way, which is just hire an expert.
100%.
And if you hire an expert that knows what they're doing, you don't have to worry about your client being a bonehead on the stand talking about all of it.
Right. You bring in an ER doc or an ortho to come in and testify about it. And I 100% wholeheartedly agree with that. And I'd love to we could probably get Harris out here to give us his perspective on this case. And what I was going to say is the flip side of that, which is I've had cases that I thought, I believe my client, but these are tough facts we're going to lose. And then the client gets up on the stand and
When's it?
And is just incredibly charismatic and comes across as super honest because he in fact is super honest. And you blow it out of the water on a case that you otherwise thought was just going to be a bunt. I tell clients all the time, they say, well, are we going to win or are we going to lose? And I say, hey man, it's like baseball. Some days you win, some days you lose, some days it rains, and we could play this game 100 times. And if you lose once, you lose 100% of the time.
From my perspective, the last 5 years it's been somewhat of a campaign to coin the term lawyer-driven medical. Before that, the letter protection game that was invented because of certain case law that came out, the defense was kind of handicapped on what they could do with it, and now they've finally figured out a way that they can make this argument in certain ways. And it's a tough one, especially when, I don't encourage any law firm to get super involved in the medical care because, one, we're not doctors, but two, all we're asking for is making it a mess and giving ammo to the other side that they don't necessarily need. And you don't need some of these bills that you get they're big.
They're big and they're
hard not to
and sometimes unnecessarily big. But the other side of that is I have had over the years dozens and dozens of clients who say, I have health insurance, I've got a GP, I was in a car wreck, I went to the ER, they told me to go see my GP, and my GP said,
you're fine.
No. My GP said, hey, I don't handle car wrecks.
Oh, yeah, I get that a lot.
We don't handle car wrecks.
I've heard that a lot.
We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to be honest about it. We want to have to testify about it. We don't want to submit a bill.
They just don't want to testify.
Right.
Or be subject to a subpoena in any way.
Right. And so it drives plaintiffs into a situation where they have to go pay cash or have to operate on a letter of protection or whatever else. And then...
I like that set of facts, though.
Oh, I do
I
too.
like the set of facts where you tried and they wouldn't take you.
100%.
But all too many times I hear stories of, as soon as it happens, step one is get over there to that one.
Sure. And to be fair, if the complaint is medical expenses are out of control, yeah.
They are. Yeah.
I agree. But my client's going to owe it.
Yeah.
I got to pay
That's the thing.
it.
It's a real bill.
I've sued Memorial Hermann. I've fought with insurance companies, medical insurance companies, over whether or not these bills are fair and accurate. And the reality is there's this crazy middleman, which is our health system, that the defense bar doesn't control and the plaintiff's bar doesn't control. It
takes away from the damages, actually.
Yeah.
Because you got to establish the dollar amount if you're going to submit past and future and all that. But if you're going to spend a 6-day trial and you're going to spend a day and a half of it talking about reasonable medical costs, it takes away from the kind of the real issues.
All right.
Yep.
We're wrapping up. Joe Melugin, fantastic to have you. Thanks you so much for coming out.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Bill, a pleasure as always.
Yep,
Pete,
I'll be back until y'all tell me to stop.
couldn't be any better at your job. Thank you so much.
Thank
You're
you.
neutral.
All right.
Thanks for joining us this week at the Dirty Verdict Podcast. For links to some of the stories discussed today, please visit our website, www.dirtyverdict.com. If you have obtained a recent verdict and want us to discuss it, please email details on the verdict to us. Also, please follow us wherever you get your podcasts.